Okay, and now we have talked about behaviorism of Skinner. We have talked about um, verbal behavior, and I want to ask you now, how do you see with the new technology, new changes, social media, etc. How do you see the taxonomy of verbal behavior right now in our days that everything is changing?
Well, I'd be surprised if a useful taxonomy was if that was going to change, unless verbal behavior is changing somehow in a fundamental way. I mean, it's still verbal, even if we've got different media. It's so now our taxonomy does need changes. Now Skinner has it, just for those who might be listening to this who are not familiar with the details. I mean, Skinner proposed a different set of categories than those that exist in everyday talk. So, for example, Skinner talks about some categories that involve replicating verbal behavior, reproducing it. So you could say something, I could write it down, and there are correspondences between what you say and what I wrote, but they are different dimensions. The spoken stuff involves sound, the written stuff involves visual patterns. Or I could show you something I wrote and you could say it. And
Mhm.
those are going from written to spoken. We've learned those correspondences so thoroughly in a lifetime that we don't worry much about whether it's a word written or spoken. We call it a word. But there are people who have who have neurological problems with age, and they develop a thing we call aphasia, which means they've lost some of this but not other parts. So those categories will perhaps change as we learn more about the ways in which uh, eh, they can be separated out because of disease processes. Then there are the categories Skinner talked about as those that make contact with things in the world. He didn't want to talk about reference because reference is in the wrong direction. It starts with the individual who then refers to something that's out there. But the thing is out there, and if you then say its name, the stimulus is out in the environment, and the direction is to the speaker, who then says the name of that thing. So, I see this, and I say scissors, but this is the stimulus that leads me to say it. Skinner created a new term. He called it the tact, as the to describe this relationship. But even that isn't quite satisfactory, because then you still start with the speaker then tacting something. We don't have good words for the stimulus occasioning the behavior. And direction matters, just as it mattered to the Greeks to get it right, that the light came from the thing out there and it came into the eye. It's not that the eye sent out something that made contact with the thing you're looking at. Uh, the science of optics would not have made sense, or the understanding of the visual system, unless we got that direction right. You had to have the stimulus coming from outside and entering the eye, not looking for something that comes out of the eye and goes out to the object seen. Well, similarly, we've got a language that's that a language of reference. I refer to this. I talk about that thing, and it starts with the speaker, and the language is not well suited to the direction that seems to be the best direction to capture when we talk about it, because it's environments that then we talk about, and they lead us to say things, or at least that's one part of verbal behavior. Then you've got the peculiar things that happen when the verbal stuff is all feeding on itself, so that you get these systems. Mathematics, by the way, has some of those properties, which have gotten loose from what really goes on. So you have fantasies, which no longer are stories that people have written, fiction, which no longer has contact with things in the real world. And then you get people who can't tell the difference. And you've got conspiracy theories and so on. We do have some useful pieces that Skinner gave us, but we mustn't assume that that's done. It's a working project, and we're trying to cope with the things that happen with verbal behavior in the world. It's exceedingly complicated, and we need to refine this taxonomy. Find a way that works better. It's not done. We're just beginning. So Skinner offers us an incredible start, and the first piece of it is, can we really just talk about this stuff, not because words are containers for ideas, not because they have meanings inside them. Throw all that stuff away, and let's look at verbal behavior as ongoing behavior and try to deal with it as behavior the way we deal with the behavior of a non-human creature, which is hard for us to do, by the way, because when we look at these non-human creatures, we start thinking about them as doing things the way we do things. We start doing things, and we're talking to ourselves about what we're doing, and we're essentially giving ourselves instructions. And these nonverbal creatures that we try to study, like the pigeons and the rats, they're like aliens to us because they don't talk. And I think the advantage of really getting to know nonverbal behavior is that then when we want to approach verbal behavior as behavior, we're better able to do so if we've studied what nonverbal behavior is like. Because we can do it with all sorts of prejudices.